Hello, world. Oh my goodness, it's working. How very exciting. So I apologize for having been away for so long. I have a really good excuse though, because it's Linux. For the last couple of times I've tried to do this, I've had terrible CPU problems. CPU's gone up to 100%, and I thought it was OBS, I thought it was my setup. I found that like 3D acceleration wasn't working. But for those of you who might be having this problem on your Intel laptop, let me give you an insight into how I fixed it, which is I'm saving you about 6 days of searching on the internet here. If we go to the command that I use to set up OB Studio, there it is. Count what that says, and I've just stuck this in at the beginning. libgl underline DRI3 underline disable equals 1, and then I run the program and everything works fine. DRI3 apparently isn't really connected to OBS in a way that does anything apart from explode your CPUs. But if you disable it, everything seems to be fine. The other thing I'm doing is I'm experimenting with directing the my music through a very complicated set of pulse audio commands, because that's what you do when you can't get something else to work in Linux. You just sit there trying to get other things that are far too clever for you to be able to ever get sufficiently correct. So here we go. If you ever want to find out how to drive the music of your computer into your stream but without necessarily getting feedback or anything like that, that's what you do. And the music that we're listening to right now, there we go, it didn't even turn up, is Ars Sonor, which was, as ever, the first bit of music that I found that was Creative Commons licensed, but it's kind of I've warmed to it. I kind of like it. If you like to chat, you can come to twitch.tv/codetherapy. This is a chat-driven development program here, so feel free to chip in or follow me there. And if you're not so big on Twitch, you can also join us on oftc.net, the IRC relay for distinguishing gentlemen and ladies. And there you can chat to me like this. Hello, chat. IRC channel, as you wish. Okay, good. All right. Oh, look, there's my IP address just hanging out there for everyone to look at. Never mind, it's IPv6. I'm sure nothing bad will happen for that. Where were we almost 3 weeks ago? We were working on an Elm dual N back program. Since I've started this, there's actually been a renaissance, which I'm sure I'm entirely responsible for Elm video streaming. And let's see, am I going to be able to? I can do this. Set up my favorite version of the Firefox browser. May regret that if it sends outstanding up debugging messages. Oh no, I kind of don't want the developer edition. I think I want the more formal and stable. I'm going to kick it up on the corner of the screen. If the music is too loud, please tell me, because I have no way of telling. That's going to be the next thing I'll do. So yeah, there's been quite a revolution in Elm live streaming, and my favorite one is just going to magically appear if I start typing his name. Yes, AVH4, Aaron, who is one of the smarter Elm developers, and his Twitch live stream is actually good. I think that's worth emphasizing. He actually has it all lined up. He knows what he's going to talk about, and he magically can program really well, and he'll just like construct this thing. And the first thing he picked was from one of my favorite programming books. I used to do a programming column in Personal Computer World for my sins, if you ever saw Personal Computer World. And I would completely attempt to rip off or be inspired by Scientific American's programming column, which I can't remember what it was called, but it had these great articles, and I really aspired to do the same thing. And actually, one of them was the inspiration for a game that I spent a summer programming when I was at college, which was Party Planner. And Party Planner, it was a program that Scientific American talked about, which was basically plotting all your friends on a grid, and your friends would like move towards the friends that they liked and move away from the friends who they didn't like. And it was a very simple rule set, but it had this marvelous effect of you being able to like program all your friends and just work out, see their social drama just play out on a grid screen. So this links to Aaron because he's actually using that program, that book. I think it was called Magic Machines. Let's type American. Machine Tool Magic. What's it called? Yeah, here we go. The Magic Machine by Dudney. That was the dude's name. Magic Machine Dudney. It's really still worth getting this book. I actually ordered it as soon as Aaron reminded me what it was called. It has these great Aaron used this to do a program about fractals, which was a really cool idea, and I wish I thought of it. And he managed to complete a really brilliant fractal program in a couple of hours. So Aaron does it every Sunday, and you should definitely go and see what he's up to. Let me just, I'll put this in the chat as well. I'm assuming he's using his, here we go, AVH4. So let's put Twitch TV. I hope he's not broadcasting now, otherwise we'll enter some sort of vortex loop. And he broadcasts it on Sunday, so he's got it completely sorted out. He even gets up on a Sunday. To remind new audience members, are just doing this for my own good. I'm just doing this as a sort of therapy. So, there we go. See, look, I'm going to friend him. I like him a lot. I think I've already friended him. Maybe I friended him and he hasn't friended me back. Could happen. And I met Aaron, and I met Evan. They all have the same kind of name, same short with roughly begins with E, ends with N, at the last San Francisco Elm meetup but one. And Evan is of course the inventor of Elm, and Aaron and the No Reading folks are incredibly friendly, and you should totally go down there and hang out with them if you're at all inspired by what you see here, or even if you're depressed by it. Just turn up. There's free pizza, so I think maybe if you ever devour nutrients in your life, you should probably hang out and go to the Elm User Group. Here, I'm even going to magnify this one so that you can actually see what it says. Oh, but look, it's only in San Francisco. Then start your own one, and then we can link them all together. Other Elm news, if you don't know it, I think ElmConf is coming up pretty soon. See, ElmConf 2016.us symbolizes how short we are of domain names these days. It's September the 15th, so what's that? That's next week. I'm sure there'll be videos of that. It's a very exciting time for Elm. I think Elm is about to become a fully fledged functional programming language for the web before I actually finish my first program that I've written in it. Highly doesn't surprise me. I never wrote that party game either. I spent all summer doing it, never finished it. I'm a slow programmer. Alright, that's enough self-deprecating nonsense. Let's have a look. Alright, do you remember all of this from last time? You can go back and look at the videos if you can't. But just for your brief delectation, and to make sure that it's still 10 minutes into this video, we still haven't done any programming. I'm trying to write a program which is dual N back. It's a quiz game where basically you have to remember N steps back when this comes through. Like, so when that comes through, if the star appears again here, which it doesn't there, but you see what I mean, then you have to go crazy and say position match. And then if you hear a sound, because there's, in theory, sound playing at the same time as this, you get to do audio match. So as far as we've got, we've actually got this program working pretty well. So I'm going to show you what we have so far. This is running. Oops. That's not what I wanted to. Is it 80? There we go. Maybe we're running in different 8080 this time. Okay. I don't really want to save that file. I'm a little curious as to why. It's a binary file. Something rub. Okay, here we go. Well, that looks kind of terrible, and that was where I left it. This bit looks okay. Gosh, it's funny coming back to this program after a while. Well, we have a couple of choices, and I think the one that I want to do this time is actually not the introduction, because I got a bit bogged down in design issues there, and they weren't terribly interesting to me. So in fact, I think what I'm going to do now is that we have the visual matching going on. We do that, and we win score. I think what I want to do is now get the audio version of this, so we actually put the dual into dual N back. So now, unlike some professional Twitch streamers that I can talk about, I have not done any preparation for this whatsoever. I have a I was going to say a life, but that's just not true. I just have a lot of other things. One of them being, actually, I've been programming yet another Elm program because I didn't feel it was right of me to do anything on this game while you guys weren't around. That's how much I care about you. So I've been working on a little checklist program, and that's been super interesting. I've been using a really good library. Get on with the game, Danny. I don't want to try the game, audience. I want to tell you about other things. This material design library, which I totally encourage people who are messing around with Elm and maybe want to do something a bit more less scrappy with it. Elm NDL is this library for doing all kinds of Google approved UI. Up this as well. There we go. This is an attempt by, this is based on Google's Material Design Lite, which is a JavaScript, oh dear, a JavaScript re-implementation of the web of Google's Android look and feel, which makes it seem a little bit odd when you stumble across one of these pages, but it looks nice, and now it has an Elm library to let you do all of these cool things like little pop-up messages and this kind of thing. So I've been using that, but I haven't been using it for dual N back because I didn't know about it at the time. So that's what I've been doing, but what I'm going to do now is hit the programming lab. Okay, so quick rundown. There's our model. That's all the state our game has. This is the messages that we receive. That's a random card generator. The language that we use in this game is the position of these things is called a card. So the idea is you're putting a card on the pad, and the grid is what the card is going on. these are how we respond to all of those messages. And these are just various sort of helper functions. This is the view, so this is how it's displayed. That's the initialization. And this is external cues that aren't actually generated by the game itself. And in this situation, all we have is a 2-second thing to move things along. Okay, so I think what I want to do is set up something that runs in parallel with this. Just move it, these graphic changing, which adds a letter to the whole thing. So a card has the position of the red block where it's appearing, or a little effective card that says this card is the same as the card 2 steps back. And we sort of decided that because we didn't want to like constantly be looking behind our backs to find out whether the 2 cards matched at all. We'll just do it once when we create the card, and then we always have some knowledge about that. Still not entirely sure that was the right idea, but we're going with it. So I think what we want to do now is create a new thing in the card, which is going to be audio. But the audio is all in traditional dual end back is actually someone saying in a seductive way, A, C, L. So it's always a letter. So why don't we make it a letter and then a string. Okay, so as soon as we do that, of course, everything breaks. I'm just doing this because remember historically that if you don't do that in Vim, our automatic reloader doesn't work. It's a bit of work anyway. That trigger. Yes, it did. Alright, and unsurprisingly, it's telling us that there's a problem because we've just checked this. But that's okay, because now we just go to where all the other errors are. And first one is at line 71, and it's complaining, and that's what it might. Ooh, interesting. So we've already hit something here. So in order to do that, our random card generator has to return something. Well, let's just pad this out for now. Say letter equals A. Let's say S. It's confusing. And put in a little fix me. So this is like type error driven development. I'm going to run this through make because I think make actually, yeah, here we go. 71. Oh, it's still a mismatch. Okay. To normal card. Causing a mismatch. What is the mismatch? Does it actually... Oh, interesting. That's actually a char. Well, a char is actually probably better for us than a string. It was getting confused because I'd said this was a string, but if you use single quotes, I think in Elm, that symbolizes a char. version 20. I'm using here, by the way, I'm using Vim with the Elmcast. Oh, hello, AVH4. I was just talking about you. Hey, Aaron. I was just praising you to the skies. Honestly, don't rewind. Hello. Gosh, now I feel a little flushed. I must start getting this really right. So what we've been doing here is basically refactoring by changing something and watching the types ripple through the whole thing. What happens if you tweak something, then the compiler will spend its time going, oh, it's all wrong over here too. You have to remember about this. And essentially, one of the things I like about Elm and I liked about Haskell is you do get a feeling that once you fix all those problems, the program will work. That's what people most about. Of course, being a bear of little brain, I also get to a situation where I'm going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here, but I do now. I know exactly what we're doing here. So let's set up an initial A, then a make on that. Is it still a problem? Is there a normal code is expecting the argument to be blah letter, but it is not. Oh, that's because there's an earlier one too. Equals B. At some point we'd want to make that actually random, but not right now. Okay, so it's successfully compiled. Now we have the letter part of dual back. Of course we want to display it. Let's see. Well, in the final game, what we want here is for it to say the letters, but that's slightly beyond my ken. Although I'll also point to that I've been looking around for like an audio library, and I've seen a couple in JavaScript using web audio that would let me do this. It's Pocket Sphinx. Pocket Sphinx, as I seem to remember, a bit hardcore. It's actually oh yeah, it's the speech recognition program, so we don't need to do that. Responsive voice, I think. Does it belong? Yeah, this looks pretty good. Can you hear that?
In using the vocal folds for talking.
So that's potentially good. Oh, it has a price though. I think what I'm probably going to do is just record these myself, or get my long-suffering daughter to record them, and then we'll use the web audio interface to work on it. The exciting thing about that is that there's actually been a few attempts to show stuff up about web audio, and yet another really good thing that you should listen to if you're at all interested in Elm. And I'm not doing this in an advertising way. I'm doing this more in a kind of like, I'm shell-shocked that there's so much good Elm stuff. This is a thing called the Daily Drip, which I'm a subscriber to. And the idea is you learn something every day. What I learn every day is that I really should have subscribed to this earlier, because the folks who are building this are now getting into like really interesting, heavy Elm stuff. And some of it is to do with audio. I noticed some web audio. For them, it's sort of constructing a sound. But I thought, well, I can certainly use that knowledge to work on my own stuff. All right, I shall add all these URLs, my notes at the end of this program. Hi, I work the fast too. So I'm working on this. This looks terrible, but I'm working on implementing a thing called dual back, which is the a very simple game which some scientists in white coats claim improve your working memory and make you generally more smart. If you want to find out everything you want to know about Dual Limback, I recommend you go to gwern.net, GWERN, which will have an extreme amount about Dual Limback. And then, just if you wander the site, you will find stuff on quantified science and self-experimentation, melatonin, modafinil, neurotropics, and the dark markets, the onion markets where people buy and sell drugs. So I guess I should put some sort of proviso here that, if you're interested in that kind of thing and you're looking at those things is legal in your country, which it should be. Okay. Did I really explain what Dual Limback is? I'm not sure, but I would. I work the fast too. I'm a huge fan of the weird, and it's one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently. Is that I'm really intent on bringing the weird back to the internet. We've had this sort of moment, I think, of we've delved into the weird and then we pulled out like outright reactionaries and crazy stuff, and we kind of dropped them on the floor and go, what was that? And I'm sort of encouraging people to get brave again and to re-enter the weird. I'm not quite sure how to do this, but I think one of the ways is to make everything safe, in the sense of somewhere where you can feel safe in your home and in your mind, but also safe enough to go and explore strangeness without it being horrible. So that's my yearly plan, is to try and find a good way of enjoying the weird again. Yeah, the deep web is kind of a fun place to visit, but I'm not sure I'd want to live there. But I would defend your right to use it. My day job, for those of you who don't know, is I work for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and one of the things that we did a few years ago was to fund Tor, and we're still Tor's lawyers, which means that I can't answer any questions about Tor that you might have in the legal space, though you can ask me lots of questions about how Tor works, and I will fake knowledge about that. Okay, let's get back to this. So we stuck the letter in the type here. Now we just need to do something with it. So this part of our Elm program is actually what presents the whole thing. There's two parts to it. There's just view that gets called automatically, and all I've really done in view is try and do some basic formatting. This looks like it is of HTML, but not actually HTML. You'll notice there's square brackets rather than pointy brackets, and the square brackets seem to expand and enclose things. That's because this is actually sort of constructing a web page. You're basically, each of these things here is kind of a command, or a function. You might want to think about it that way. And the idea is the whole of this function returns something that can then be constructed into HTML. I hope that's a good explanation. What I can do here, you'll notice this is the bit where it's pretty clearly showing the grid itself, and we're just, because 9 items didn't seem worth creating another loop, I've just cut and paste those. So I think what I'm just going to do here is add another part that just gives us our letter. So let's say turn letter. We'll replace this with audio, as I say, pretty soon. And we'll pull out of our model. You'll notice that model is supplied as an argument here to this function. So all of the state of this Elm program lies in a a complicated data structure, well, not so complicated structure, called model, and that gets passed away to these functions. I work the first two. I do not do a lot of web development. I am a enthusiastic amateur. I just enjoy exploring new things and new ways of thinking as well. So one of the things I like about Elm is it's a functional programming language, which kind of twists my brains inside out. I have spent, ever since I was this big, you see that big? I've been what's called an imperative programmer, which doesn't mean that like I order things about, except I do order computers around. And I'd order them around in the way that most people think of computer programs. So you would say, okay, I want to list everything here, and then I want you to say, you are great. And then the next thing I want you to do is to clear the screen. So those are a set of orders. Functional programming languages work more like equations. The idea is, as we've seen with this, really this is sort of a complicated or a structured value. And that means that it doesn't really matter where you start. You can, in the same way as if you were trying to, if you were trying to work out what 1 plus 2 times by 3 plus 4 minus 2 was. It's a pretty complicated thing to imagine, like, working all that through, but you could start by working out what that is and sort of turning that into, oh yeah, that's 4 minus 2 is 2. And then you might take these two and say, okay, 1 plus 1 is 3. And then you say, well, 3 times 3 is 9. And then plus 2, well then that's easier, that's 11. And that's how you work out your final result. Functional programming languages are often very similar to this, in that what I'm putting in here is a new calculation, but I'm not really describing in what order all of this should be run. Like the div doesn't have to necessarily happen before the first diff, that is, doesn't have to happen before it's worked out this. So it's sort of more timeless, I would say, than traditional imperative programming. And that means your brain turns inside out, because everything I look at when I want to program, I want to give a string of orders to it. And in fact, in this situation, what we need to do is sort of describe what it is in its fullness, and then it happens of its own accord. Okay, so what do we call our it's not going to be that easy, actually. So if we look back to the model, we have a function, I think, for returning the position of the top card. All right. I'm going to put... This is super interesting. This may make me have to rethink this whole program. And it's a good lesson. So we created this thing, which was, rather than storing a value for the top card, we'd store a value when it's a normal card, but not if it matched a card before it. Now, what I thought I would end up doing is something like position matches, or letter matches back. But I realize now that if we do that, this still has to hold the other. I guess that doesn't actually. Position. We could do it like that. I feel a smell emanating from this. I've somehow made this much more complicated than it should be. I wish I could remember why I'd walked down this route. Could have documented it. Could have recorded a video of myself thinking about it. Couldn't I? Would I have 14 hours ago? Do I want to chicken out of how I've done this and go back to something more simple with my head between my legs? No, tail between my legs. I just try and do this. Okay, so now we have many new versions of what this is going to be. I remember now, the reason why I did this was because the random number generator doesn't get the model. So I was trying to think of a way that it could work that didn't need it to go and look at the previous model. Wonder if, where is random card called? I wonder if I've learned more about Elm now and that I could actually do that in a better way. See, I call random card here. And back when I was starting, I bet I didn't think, oh, I could give that random card some values. Huh. I bet you I could do something now. That's a pretty big refactor. Let me think about it a little bit. Alright, so we're going to hey Kubitsu. Yeah, we spent hours thinking this through together, and then like suddenly we're gonna have to like reinvent everything. I think. Alright, we're gonna do a spike. How long have I been recording for? Can't tell. I plan 45 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna keep this. We're gonna like keep this stored away in Git, but I'm gonna see if we can't do something here. Okay, all of this stuff is still gonna work. I think this might. Top card. Alright, here, if our problem was we couldn't send that model what it needs to be, I think we can now, because I think what we can do is okay, I'm going to look at the manual first. What am I talking about? I just want random. Okay, let me magnify this for you guys. You folks. Run a generator. This is what I want. So it runs the generator. Generates a random number and returns with do we generate this? Random generator. So got random card is the message we're going to use. The latest version of this. Something I've frequently run into. Yeah, here we go. So we feed it the generator here. The generator holds a value. So we feed generate something that takes a value. Turns a message, and that's that thing there. Oh. What is generator? It's a type. It's a type that goes over an int or whatever we want. So we're creating a random card here. Again, the thing that I hit into is that this gets this returns this, but at no point can we really feed it the model. So what we're really doing here is converting this generator and sort of transforming it using which card into something that returns card. So we're lifting all of that into random. What we want to do is let's see. This is what always throws me. Functional languages is like now I'm caught between this thing which is sort of returning a value wrapped in this outer type here. This isn't really returning a card. What it's doing is constructing a function which will at some point return a card. And so you can't really stuff it with knowledge about the current state. Can I? What does which card do? Okay, so that's defined up there. That makes a lot of sense. So which card takes A, which is the random. Maybe we could stick another argument in here. So we give random card a card, and that's the previous. That's gonna be, that card that we give it is gonna be the card 2 cards back. I like it. And then we also, so we'll call that back card here. All right. Then it's basically we're going to give it a card, and then given that card in the past, it's going to create this generator which will either return one element of that previous card or 2 elements of that previous card as part of its process. Okay, so this makes me feel a bit happier. So we could return right now, rather than returning position max back, we could just return the back card. Okay. Or it's a normal card. Right. I like that, actually. So now we have to see... Yeah, look at that. We could just make this function get a card. So we'll make this get previous card. So we just need a function that returns that previous card, which we can get from the model. So, and we do have access to the model here. So what we want to do is return model deck, I think it's called, and then how many steps back we want it to be. I think I actually have a thing called n, which is a terrible variable name, but is actually technically what it is. Okay, so model.n. Let's go back to where we were. Yeah, you don't have to show me all those n's. Model.deck and model.n. So what I'm doing here is, I'm going to put those the other way around. Just seems more sensible for me. So now I'm saying get the previous card, get the card this many steps back. Yeah, should be pretty easy to do. I think I've actually written that function, something like it. What's it called? Get previous card. And it takes an int to go back that many steps, and then it takes a deck. And it returns card. Okay. So what we want to do here is take right. Oh, maybe, do we actually call it a deck, or maybe it's just a list of cards? There is the function we actually need, actually. See that down there? Oops. But it isn't. It isn't MH4. It isn't. It's called N because it's called... Oh, you're right. It does come from science originally. If they come up with a better name than Dual M back, I think we would all be high IQ superheroes by this point. There was some part of my brain where I thought, maybe if I spell out N, maybe if I put ENN, because that's how I was thinking. That is no clearer. So look, here is the function for that. Let's drop back neck. Though that's going to return. No, that isn't going to do it. That's not everything. Right. It's exactly how it should be called. And the answer won't be 2, because that would just get confusing. Dual, how many back? It's probably called that in German. I think that would be much clearer in German. I don't think that's the right one. Okay, I think that... Okay, so we drop, and that is going to give us a maybe, I think. Let's have a look. Oh, interesting. So it doesn't. I guess because if you drop more than there are values, which I think is going to happen a lot at the beginning, right? Let's have a look in the REPL. I need to do that. This is always the point where I think this is hung. It's not hung, it's just having to pull in almost everything. Just wait here. Just when you think, oh, it's crashed. It's crashed. It's definitely crashed. It comes up with a prompt. There you go. I was genuinely worried there for a moment. So if we say list drop 5, and we only have 3 things. Empty set. What's the head of an empty set? That's going to be where we get maybe, I think. Nothing. That's alright. That's alright. I can live with nothing there. Okay. I feel I might be doing a bit of not invented here in that I am actually ignoring all of this code that I myself wrote 2 weeks ago in preference to just reinventing the whole thing. I can't even find my way around this. Where's it gone? Add new content deck. This is further down than this. Here we go. Get previous card. Alright, so we drop all of those and then we're going to pass that maybe to the next function. I think maybe we are. There's nothing very sensible that we can give. We can give that. What's that friendly compiler saying right now? Is it complaining? 118. Here's your error. Closing parens. It's just because I got this wrong. I'm using a new Vim plugin. I went through, during my period of absence from you all, I went on a great search to look at Vim plugins from Japan, which I said at the time was an incredibly William Gibson-esque thing to do, looking for artisanally crafted Vim plugins. But I found some really good ones, and this one I'm using is very good. I think it's called Rainbow Brackets. Oh, look, there's one in Visual Studio. Vim Rainbow Brackets. So the idea here is that, okay, again, let's make this big for you, is that when you type in your brackets, the colors match, which I think is such a better use of colors in an IDE than like making sure that every function is the same color name or every variable name. So I now use that, and I quite like it. So we can see from here that that blue matches up and that green matches up over there, and you don't have to bounce on the percent key, which is, if I do percent here, this is what Vim does when you hit the percent key. It jumps between the two variables. Okay, so I ran into something else, 207. Oh yeah, well that's because the point where I realized this was all going wrong was in the middle of this. So we'll keep that there. There's a terrible reminder. Fix me. Alright, but apart from that, what's wrong with my code? Okay, 153. Just position matches back. Okay, now we're in the stuff that we're dealing with. There's too few codes. Why? What did we change there? Position. Oh, this is because this is part of the card type, and we spontaneously did this. I do not think is the way we want to do it. Random card. Okay. I bet it is. But we could sort of... I'm going to plug ahead. I know that's going to cause a type error there because I haven't really turned this. On 6. It's interesting that it thinks that. Oh, right, okay. That's because... See, we haven't really finished what we're doing yet, but I'm already kind of throwing myself at the mercy of the compiler, and it's sort of guiding me through what I should change. So, what we have here, a equals naught and back card does not equal nothing. God. That works pretty well, actually. Except I can never remember what Elm uses for its non-equality operator. Is it that? Is it something else? Is it maybe it's that? No, that doesn't look right. Go ahead. Go ahead, patronize me, compiler. Oh, interesting. It's complaining about that. It's complaining about and. Ah, right. So we have to... So I'm saying return back card, but back card is this construction, which, if I haven't lost everybody who isn't intimately knowledgeable about Elm already, that is something that can be nothing, or it can be a card. And that's really not what they want back home. They want... So does that mean we should put a case here? How do we destructure that in a then statement? So we know it's not going to be nothing. Well, I guess what we could do is like by the time you've got to this point, we can really confidently say that this maybe is actually a just construction. So we could just say with default and give it a this is going to be like the default. This feels strange. What I should really do is pair program with somebody awesome. Although I like to think what I'm doing here is like this amazing psychological experiment of having a somewhat mediocre programmer attempt to thrash their way through this. The other thing that's sort of interesting is that I drunkenly managed to persuade my good friend Verity Staub. If you've ever met Verity, she is a columnist who's been writing columns about computing for decades. She wrote a really good parody of functional programming tutorials. I'll put a link to this in, but I've known Verity. Verity was my first boss when I started my first job, which was for a computing magazine, and she used to write the funny column at the back of a magazine called .exe magazine, which is how long ago it was. Anyway, she's always been funny, and she did this very good parody of functional programming lessons. But I did just persuade her to play around with Elm, and she says she's having a lot of fun. So, here's to you, Verity. I've not revealed your true identity, but hopefully I've got you some more readers. All right. Oh, what's AVH for? You know, maybe extras. There's a function called maybe A that will crash if it's nothing, but I'd do a case probably. Okay. So this is like pair programming, isn't it? Yeah. I'm not sure how to fit it. Well, let's keep it with this. I mean, this is never gonna... I'm gonna regret that. Let's run make. See if program goes third argument. Why does why do you have a third argument? I thought there were only two arguments in with default. Maybe that's what the error is. Oh, okay. It's breaking it down. Just associating it wrongly. Successfully compiled. Okay. That actually disturbs me more when it just compiles. One of the stories that friends of mine convinced me to use functional programming came up with was when they would be halfway through solving their debugging or solving their problem, and they would just run it and it compiled, and then they would go, it's not supposed to compile, and then they would go to run the program and it would work. They had already fixed the problem without realizing it. I do not think we are in that position now, because we have yet to write again. No, wait, we have. Holy crap, maybe that's what we've done. Well, what we haven't done is write the thing that notices when this card matches. We have to write that program, so I wonder what it does now. Terrible. Next. Bet this. Huh? Somehow it's matching on this, coming up with no back. Created a monster. Twitterers. Twitches, rather. Created something that. Oh, there's another function. Right. So, yeah, this really justifies my rewriting of this, because I actually realized in writing this program that I couldn't guarantee that that the positions matches back would be the only time that you would get a card that would match so many steps back. So I ended up writing the function that this is actually working. Okay. Look there. There is the. There is the structure. Huh. All right. So we're in the position where we can simplify this quite a lot now. So that generates a random card. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to gut this type. Every card is just a normal card. Every card just can be that. Yeah, now you're freaking out. Now you don't know what to do. Okay. So we return that. And we return that. Get rid of those brackets now. Position. So I'm going to pull this out, because I think this is actually the way that we check whether this card matches. So what it needs is not a good name for that. Takes a card and a list of cards. Returns a boolean, right? So we're going to say, does this card, oops, I'm sorry, is this card the card you thought of, or rather the previous card before? Oh, it also needs, maybe we should just give it a model. Say, always going to be the top card, right? This is an interesting question about like whether if you're creating something like this, you should just return the model. You should just give this function a model, or you should be a bit more kindly with what you're passing around, a bit more specific. But because I'm just hacking, I'm going to say, no, this thing takes the whole model and returns a bool. Might be able to refine this later. So if well, I'm just going to cover this in ignominious comments. All right, so matches in back. Case new card. Doesn't really need a case anymore. None of this really matters anymore. We're just gonna add it. It's just collapsed. That's a good feeling. Breaking any hearts? 914. Okay, so this is where we actually have to test this a bit more. A bit more carefully. So this is the bit where that stuff we put into comments comes into its own, although I think I can probably construct it from memory at this point. So we do a head on it, and that takes the top card, returns nothing, and then we just replace this with, oh, we don't even need that, look. We just say, oh, that's kind of beautiful. So let's just make this short. We're saying the top card, that's the head there, should equal the head of the deck if we drop all the cards n, or we drop n cards. Once again, that is suddenly simplified. This is a strong indication that this was the right thing to do. Okay, and like we're like getting rid of a lot of code here. 129. Position of top card. Okay, this all collapsed too. This just becomes one case. What is it saying top card should be? Okay. So we don't need this. Just say top card of... There we go. Okay, we just carved another bunch out. I'm not sure if I got that right, but we'll see. 125. Oh yeah, so we don't have that anymore. Okay. Okay. One more. Bites the dust. Oh, this is just us trying to create some cards at the beginning. Gonna have to fix that too. I don't think we even need those anymore. It's going to know that it's not going to die if there's nothing in the deck. I like it. I like getting rid of all this stuff. Do my rainbow brackets match? They do. Okay, that's suspicious. Did that all work? I feel like I've deleted more lines than 2. That worked. Holy cow. We've really simplified that. What we didn't do was put in the audio. But we can do that next time. We'll keep that fix me in place. What's the other one? I think we can just say... Well, a lot of this we really don't need anymore. Gosh. So, add new card to deck is really not... It's just a line. It seems hardly worth it. I don't think this is just as explanatory as anything else. I'm going to grab that and find out where is it. Oh, interesting. So start timer takes something? Ah, okay. So we can feed to start timer. Where'd that thing end up? Yeah, there's no new card in that. Co-therapy. The EFF published a list. Sorry, I was miles away. Published a list of questions for the US presidential candidates. Assuming that no candidate campaigners direct respond to EFF, let me know if any have. Do you have any place I can go to a source list of candidates' positions on those issues? If not, their responses to those specific questions. I don't, but I bet I could find out for you. I work on the international side of EFF, and Yeah, I remember the internal discussion about this. So one of the things that's you should everyone should know about the American political system is that because EFF is what's called a 501c3 nonprofit, we are digital rights spotlight. I can't actually cut and paste because of this Tmux, but here are the questions. Digital rights spotlight. So we're extremely limited in what we can do and say during an election period. We can't be partisan about either of the candidates in the presidential election, and we have to sort of keep everything balanced. Otherwise, it counts as lobbying, and we're specifically our institution, of 501c3 institutions, can't lobby, but they certainly can't be partial to people standing for election. We can do a little bit of lobbying. And so, in fact, that's specifically what we say here, as a tax-exempt non-profit organization. So what we were thinking about was, well, what were the questions that we would ask, and what question? How can we best phrase the questions that people should be asking? And we wrote these really to encourage other people to reach out, I think. I wonder if we've asked them specifically. That would be the obvious thing to have done. We may be restrained from doing that, but you know what? I'll ask Engerel from Nazil. In fact, I'll put a note to ask. There we go. Because otherwise I won't do it. I'm going to start a new thing. Episode questions. This is a thing called terminal velocity. It's great. It lets you, if any of you have used notational velocity, it's very similar. It lets you very quickly type things in. So, ask Dave Mass what if there has been a response to our present candidate questions. Yeah. Put a little checkbox behind that so I can tick it off. So Dave Mass is he's an investigative activist. He's actually a brilliant investigative journalist from San Diego, and we sort of set him on projects, although he's pretty self-guided, to do deep research about a particular thing we're worried about. And as a journalist, Dave was definitely in the position where he was able to quiz political candidates about their positions, and that's why he used to get into a lot of trouble in San Diego. If you if I dig up his name, am I spelling it right? Dave, I'm so sorry if I did spell your name wrong. Here we go. Look at this. The Dave Mass era ends. San Diego's best investigative reporter. He is pretty amazing. One of the things that's still a payoff from that is when he was in San Diego, he was investigating a local businessman who I think has just been sentenced to jail time. And when he came to EFF, he just carried on keeping an eye on this guy, and discovered that as well as all the dodgy deals he was doing, he was also selling surveillance software. It was this perfect combination of EFF issues and his old issues. But yeah, I will look into it. It's a really good question. Okay. That seems to work okay. I think we got to the bit, hadn't we, that it was just working. Yes, I scored a goal. It's a little cheaty to have this in, but and then we were just going to tidy this up a bit. So we've got rid of that function. We can just delete that now. Go. Okay, turn letter equals. See, we always have to say head. It always turns it into a just. Destructure in a situation like this. Well, I'm never actually going to show this, so in the real version, so I'm going to cheat and use toString, which is this function that turns anything into a string. And then we say mod head model deck. So it's going to show everything about it, so it's fine. It's debugging. Oh, did someone complain? Oh, we have to say list head. Okay. Cannot find variable new card. Line 93. Oh, it should be just card. Okay. Oh no. Mike thought it was okay. Hello. Start, you should have spotted that. Start you again. Come on. That's the big problem. Oh. Just compiled without saying anything. Yeah, so just wanted to know what's going on. It's all the letter S because that's all we know how to set right now. So I'm just going to tidy this up a bit, and then I think I'm going to call it a night. Let's just run through all of this. Oh, thank you AVH4. Go meditate. It's a good thing to do. I should do it more too. It's what therapy is all about. Soothing. Excellent. Yeah, so TPP and well, privacy a little bit. Honestly, I found like this presidential debate being very impartial and speaking on my own time. I've barely seen any real discussion of policy. I mean, it seems to be just shaping up to whatever you do, don't let that other person be elected. It was interesting to see Hillary Clinton sort of coming against the TPP, which I don't know what that means. We've sort of, the TPP is very wobbly at the moment, and we're not counting our chickens. But you may remember that this is what happened with ACTA. TPP is a much bigger deal than ACTA, and there are a lot more vested interests, really on both sides, about whether it's going to succeed or fail. But it's much wobblier than I think anyone expected it to be. We have both presidential candidates saying that they don't agree with it. I think what that means is either President Obama's going to have to be in an awful rush to get it ratified and pushed through the Senate, or there's going to be an awkward turnaround by whoever becomes president. So, and of course, it also has to get through in a bunch of other countries too. So, I really hope it doesn't. There's a couple of things that really hurt for me, which was copyright term extension and the export of the DMCA. So the TPP would force countries to increase their copyright terms to the same as the US. And it would force Canada to adopt notice and takedown. And right now Canada has just notice and notice, which is far better. So I think that's right. Okay. All right. Let's calm this down. Letter, character, waiting for choice. These are all good. This all seems pretty much same as it was. Get a maybe card out of that, which turns out to be okay. Generating that is probably... So we need to introduce a random letter. We also need to do random letter checks. So maybe we should just put in here is letter thing. Right. So I think you'll find that Trump was definitely on the FBI's side, Donald Trump, at the time, and I suspect that Hillary might have said something along those lines too, though I'd have to check. But I think a lot of politicians were taken by surprise by how many people actually came out to support Apple. And of course, the FBI finally withdrew their case, so it's got back in the closet. The real line that we were trying to establish was this idea that the government can't re-engineer any tech company's technology, and the reason that is because in the world where software is eating everything, if you can tell Apple to change something in its design, then that means every mobile phone, which is really just a microphone, a camera, and a geolocator, and some software, and a radio, could be re-engineered to be a spying device, and that just seems too much of a power for any government to have. Yeah. Well, I remember when Obama was standing the first time, and he was in the middle of his presidential candidate nomination campaign, and he made a lot of noises about reining back the NSA, but then voted on the FISA Reform Act, which was the bill that granted retroactive amnesty to the people that we were suing, AT&T, the phone companies. So we're pretty used to presidential candidates not being good on these issues, and they certainly don't get any better when they actually become the executive, which is why the judiciary and Congress, when Congress is functioning correctly, have to be these sort of checks and balances on the executive. It's very rare that you get an executive that pays attention to the civil liberties issues when it's the group exercising this power. It's funny. And now back to the funny card game. So this is just going to be pretty easy too. This is just going to be... Oh look, we got this wrong. Misthead model deck. Oh. False. Card turn. This is just comparing whether the two cards are the same, and actually we're not doing that. We're sort of comparing the position. That's what we want to do. So we want to return no, that's not right. So in not sure this is going to work. Man, destructuring these things is always a real pain. I wish I had the knack at it. Card equals nothing. Then false. Else. That might be. Top card is being used in an unexpected way. That's a great error message. Yes, I am. You've seen through my plan here, compiler. I bet there's something we can do here. Some maybe function. Maybe it is time to bring in those maybe extras. There we go. And then this is a monad, folks. Card. Let's fade. I'm too tired to do this. I'm too tired. But it's a good thing to start working on next time. I think we've whittled down. I think that we've got as far as we can. There's probably some extra refactoring that we could do, but right now. But we did some good refactoring there. It was very promising. Let's pick up Git Cola, my favorite Git manager. Can you not see anything? There we go. So, yeah, look at all that. We've added some. Mostly, we've just trimmed this down. Excellent. Refactor to remove. To simplify card type. Stage all of it, actually. Oh, okay. Commit. Great. Thank you, everyone, for watching me flail. It's always nice to have an audience, if not, especially if people who are much smarter than me and get to ask such good questions. Thank you so much. I'll be back sooner than the long break, and maybe even later this weekend, but I want to work out a regular timetable. I think that's one of the things that's good. I don't want to tread on Aaron's Sunday elming. I'll find some other time to do it. And I'll put up some notes as well. Thanks very much, Andrew. Thanks all of you. See you soon.